Where you go, Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner, and Lipton, inspiration flowing from nature.
It's the morning when we wake up to think about think, not talk, about how to pay 150% tariff increase. Welcome to the thinking edition of the show. We must be tired of the talking, are we not? Threatening instability while calling for stability. The outcome is the cost of the NPP's seeming journey to self-destruction. Or it's merely a self-inflicted dilemma. Will a Ghanaian president and vice ever travel out of the country at the same time when the Speaker of Parliament is a member of the opposition party? But why the fresh debate over a settled matter of a speaker acting as president? Didn't the Supreme Court unanimously end the talking on the 28th January 2004, or the present purpose is thinking? And to what end? The politicians continue to invite us to, or is it their talking blame game gimmickry, or why must we spend 2 weeks thinking about documents over the sale of GMPC's drill ship? Do these documents include photocopies of a check for the $19 million paid to Societe Generale, or it was cash payment? The balance of $3.5 million, was it also paid or handed to the Energy Ministry in cash, or paid to a bank that cannot generate a statement of the payment? These are the questions that will engage our minds on the show this morning. I'm Samson Ladi Ayenini. Welcome to Newsfile. We'll be right back.
I did not insult the party. And what I said then had come to pass. Is that not so? Yes. But this is you here, MPP. You do better by fighting yourselves. One, even this thank you talk that Jake and Dr. Bawumia are doing, I'm only a supporting staff. Even this, some members of your party, MPP people, want it to be stopped. Is that so?
We are a democratic party internally as well as externally. That's why every 4 years we go through this renewal of our offices. As Sir John said, everybody in this party who wants to have a position will face that position through election. Everybody. Even if we have decided that nobody is going to go against you, you will still have to face election. You will still have to go to a primaries or Congress or whatever, where nobody files against you, and then we all say, yeah, we adopt you and we accept you.
John Mahama was pronounced as having been validly elected, but I am totally sure, and I believe that to the rest of my life, that we won a moral victory on that. Definitely won a moral victory. And we showed that this party really cares for Ghana, because we could have really destabilized Ghana if Nana Akufo-Addo had said he didn't accept the results. And it is not in the interest of Ghana. And so the interest of this country, for the future of this country, we accepted the results.
I should look at it. The oath of allegiance. I,
Edward Koblido Ajahu,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear
do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith and
allegiance to the Republic of Ghana as by law established,
and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana as by law established,
that I will uphold the sovereignty
that I will uphold the sovereignty
and integrity of Ghana,
and integrity of Ghana,
and that I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
So help me God.
So help me God.
The oath of the President. I,
Edward Koblido Ajahu,
having to comply with Articles 62, 11, and 12 of the Constitution,
having to comply with Articles 60, 11, and 12 of the Constitution,
do in the name of the Almighty God swear
do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will be faithful and true to the Republic of Ghana,
that I will be faithful and true to the Republic of Ghana,
that I will at all times preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana,
and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana,
and that I dedicate myself to the service and well-being of the people of the Republic of Ghana,
to the service and well-being of the people of the Republic of Ghana,
and to do right to all manner of persons.
and to do right to all manner of persons.
I further solemnly swear that should I at any time break this oath of office,
that should I at any time break this oath of office,
I shall submit myself to the laws of the Republic of Ghana
I shall submit myself to the laws of the Republic of Ghana
and suffer the penalty for it.
and suffer the penalty for it.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Right Honorable Speaker, who a few minutes ago has been elevated to the acting first gentleman of this country. And I guess that rubs on members of this House and also shows and registers significantly that our constitutional arrangements are of age and are maturing. Certainly, on a lighter note, I did hear in the corridors that Honorable W.O. Yebo is leaving for the Ministry of Defense by 2 o'clock, and that Honorable Professor Jambuafo is leaving for the Minister of Finance at the same time.
Today we have Right Honorable Duajaho one of our own as the Speaker of the institution of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, we can only wish the Right Honourable Speaker very well while his authority lasts.
When I had a copy of this information from my legal department, I requested this legal department to contact our legal department in head office in Paris to make research. We have contacted them a few times, but unfortunately we could not retrieve any document or any trace. I know that under the French law we have the obligation to keep all the documents during 10 years. So because this case is older than 10 years, I was not surprised that this legal department could not retrieve anything.
We are dealing with the issues that surround us, and when we finish with that, we still need those, still need some information from the headquarters of Société Générale. We will do that. But you already have a document that emanated from the Ministry of Energy, so it cannot be a fiction. The ministry cannot just concoct a document. What we are worried about is in respect of how these monies, which were realized from the sale of the drillship, were disbursed.
You are talking about $19.5 million. And considering the fact that there have been some contradictions and incoherent with regards to the statement he makes as then Deputy Minister of Energy, and then the statement that is made by Mr. Kandapa, who was then his boss, I think that it creates more room for suspicion, it creates more room for concern, that government will do everything possible to see how best the sole commissioner can be assisted in unraveling the mystery and the contradictions therein.
Welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. And on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And this morning, we're putting Ghana first by thinking around some of the major issues, very major issues, with a lot of future ramifications for the country if steps are not taken to look at them carefully. My guests are in the studio. I'll introduce them to you right away, but this show, as you know, is coming to you live from the Multi-TV studios here, and this is the Joy News channel. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. Good morning to our listeners in the Volta region in Ho, where I was for the greater part of the week and had the opportunity to get good feedback about how you cherish the show. Now, the show is also being heard on ABN television in the UK, on the Sky platform in the UK, and elsewhere in Europe. You're watching or listening to us also on myjoyonline.com and multitvworld/streams. So effects, or the net effect, is that we are literally all over the world. Thank you very much for your company. The show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of MTN everywhere you go, Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature, and Valex Lease Equipment, your affordable document management solutions company. My guests, regular panelists, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, Abdul Malik Kweku Bako Jr. Also, we have the Deputy Minister of the Interior, James Agalga. He's also a lawyer. We have Gabi Asari Ochre-Dako, a lawyer and Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute, the pro-opposition think tank. He doesn't like that. It's a think tank. That's all he's interested in.
I'm not actually pro-Ghana.
All right, pro-Ghana. Thank you. Then the Deputy Minister of Education in charge of tertiary, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Morning, Samson.
It's been a long time that we had Sammy and James on the show. Yeah. Great to have you back.
Thank you.
Good. Hope we have an interesting thinking edition of the show. Dr. Benjamin Kumbo says we should not be talking, we should be thinking. All right.
Should start from government.
All right, Gavi started the discussion already. Now, briefly, I want you to comment briefly, even a minute or so, about the tariff increases that are expected. There are some who say, no, this is not what we expected. Still, the utilities are giving us very poor service. Customer service is non-existent, and we don't know what exactly they are giving us. And they are insisting that we ought to pay more, and we have to pay it quick. Otherwise, they get into trouble. Abdul Malik.
Same old story. We've been there before. We are back there. I'm sure we'll continue to be in the same thing. It's a recycled phenomenon, very perennial. Ordinarily, as a citizen, you find it difficult if you have to pay, higher prices or tariffs.
150 approved.
Yes, it's an instinctive reaction. So I will not be surprised if there's a protest out there. I'm not talking of street protests, but just people who are not going to be excited about that. But I keep on asking, the bottom line is the quality of service, let's be honest. That's the bottom line. I know people wouldn't mind paying a little bit more if they are going to get improved quality service. Unfortunately for us, we've been treated this way all these years. They come, they ask for increases, they give very logical and reasonable, propositions for that. They're giving it, the service really doesn't improve. And that is why I think the point of frustration and dissatisfaction is. So really, I'm not sure I have any answers in terms of the competence to deal with the issue. I just feel like an ordinary man in this sense. I can appreciate the economics behind the arguments they advance. I can appreciate it. But as somebody who is a consumer, I'm unable to accept the prescription. To be honest with you, I think majority of Ghanaians would not be excited with this particular package.
Right. James, around the same time the announcement was being made, I visited a very magnificent, newly built offices for the Electricity Company of Ghana in Dansoman. It's very new, very nice. You like to see it. And they have as many as about 544 tellers that are attending to people who are coming to purchase power. I visited the place, and before 5 o'clock, it looks like everybody's closed, gone. And the one person who is available in one teller doesn't even, lift the head to look at me, to talk to me. All I am told is that our network is down. So I move out. I say, okay, today I try to attempt to get to here and see what's going on. Otherwise, there are too many vendors around. I go to them and I get very smart service.
Well, Sami, I think that we have to face the reality. Nobody wants to pay tariffs, especially when there is a progression in the tariffs imposed. But we have to face the reality. If you consider the fact that the government is continuously subsidizing utilities, and we've now gotten to the stage where the economy is being seriously hit. We can no longer build roads. Contractors are complaining that they cannot be paid. That, coupled with the increase in wage bill, requires us to, bite the bullet to take decisive action. And I think that the Public Utilities Regulatory Services must have done a lot of work and research in this regard before proposing the 150, percent increment, which has now been approved. It is my expectation that with the increment, we'll begin to enjoy quality service. I mean, not the type of service you cannot find when you go to the ECG's offices or even VRA for that matter. So I have very little to say, but to simply state that, look, at this point in time, we're going through very difficult times. We as social democrats and ordinarily would not want to embrace, I mean, increment in tariffs and all that, because in the long run, it appears such increments hurt, the underprivileged.
Yes, I started
but we are
with
at
you.
The crossroads.
I started with you with the scenario of the typical attitude of the civil servant, and I go to a private vendor, and I get served very well.
Well, Sami, there ought to be some attitudinal change. We can't run away, I mean, from that fact. Let me just give you an example. A few days ago, I mean, I know how much I pay as, water, and then all of a sudden there was some astronomical, increase. I couldn't understand. I sent my cousins to go cross-check, and when they went, the attitude was appalling. I have now decided that I would go there in person and sort things out. So, Sami, you are not the only one who is facing some of these challenges. It's widespread, and we have to do something about that.
Right, Gabi, I start with you on Gilbert Richmond Roxon's post. He says, the PURC should not take Ghanaians for granted. You always approve tariff increases, and yet we see nothing. Same poor services. All these public utilities do is use our monies for allowances, super delicious breakfast and lunch. Seriously, they have taken us for a ride for a very long time, and it is about time we spoke some sense to them. The proposed increments are absurd. Ghanaians simply deserve better.
I had a deputy minister, the one who has spoken, describing us as decisive steps. I think it's embarrassing steps. And the PURC must be very embarrassed by this. There's absolutely no reason for this sudden 150% increase. There's no reason for it. If you have competent people doing what they're supposed to do, either at the PURC or elsewhere. Because, look, every time there's a reason to review, you can use 2 or 3 main, if you like, indicators. One, whether or not the work is improving. But whether or not the work is improving, they are incurring debt. Because if there's inflation, if there's crude oil prices going up and all that, they are incurring debt. So if you, first of all, take a decision that you would only allow an increment when you see a marked improvement in service, what are the indicators? And what would that mean if they don't meet that marked improvement?
Have you also thought about the fact that over the years, what they have asked for, we have not given them?
I'm getting there. So that's, first of all, if you come with that policy, and what would happen if they don't meet? Is it the management that go, or that we don't pay? And if we don't pay, what happens to the services at the ECG? Because they incur debt, and who pay for it eventually? The people, taxpayers. And if they had, even using their own indicators, if they had been increasing it gradually, we wouldn't have had this 150%. They've been talking about increment for a long time, but then allow politics to set in. Oh, it may not be prudent now because, well, maybe there's an election petition, maybe there's a runoff, maybe blah, blah, blah. So these are the things.
Before the election and before the election petition.
Before the election, then election petition. Oh, wait, we don't know what's going to happen.
I'm referring to previous governments. The debate has been long-standing.
But I'm saying that, so I don't want to listen to someone saying that this is a bold, decisive step. 150% increase? When did they decide that it should go up 150%? If you allow the market to work and the regulators do their work properly, you would have a sort of usual, normal, peeny sort of increment, as we would expect, 5% every 3 months, every 6 months. 2% every month, that sort of thing, and you don't feel it. Then business can plan properly. This morning, I usually buy 100 Ghana cedis. This morning, I had to pay 300 Ghana cedis because I don't know how far that will go. But I'm just thinking it could go up next week. But I'm just saying, people can't plan properly. It's really, and there's nothing good about what they've done.
And when you said you usually buy 100, you are buying 300, what are you talking about?
I'm just saying because of electricity. Okay. Because I just know that, and I only had 300 of me. If I had 1,000 or 2,000, I would have paid because I expected it to go up.
All right.
I'm not too sure how long I could have done that. Okay. But I'm saying there's no excuse for this. It's bad management on the part of the PURC, and it's the PURC I'll blame because they are not doing their job properly. If they were doing their job properly, Ghanaians would not be asked to pay 150% at a go. It's absolutely unforgivable, and the PURC must answer for this. Not, to me, not ECG, not Ghana Water, and even not government, because if they allow government to play politics with them, then they should answer to the people of Ghana for this. Great.
Sami, what do you have to say? And I must note that there's Abdul Wadudu Jr., who says, combination of Agalga and Ablakwa will make my day. Fireworks. Let me hear the fireworks on the increases.
Maybe Dumso fireworks.
Gavi can't seem to stop the mischief. Well, let me wish all our viewers and listeners a very good morning and a happy Founders Day.
Great.
And wish Toby Afede, I should have been in the Volta region, but I'm with him.
His 10th anniversary.
Yeah, his 10th anniversary celebrations. My sincerest congratulations to him.
And it's the 104th birthday of the Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Great.
Yeah, so we'll make up for all these events after this program. Well, honestly, Samson, increases in utilities is not something that you can welcome and embrace. It's always difficult, especially when you are in government and you have to speak to these issues. It's always difficult to bear, and I would say that over the period, it's become very clear that these are items that we cannot wish that they will ever remain static. Utilities, petroleum prices. I think that this country is coming to some maturity that these are items which will continue to go up. And if you come to consider the current situation where the economy is facing challenges, you have gold prices down, you have cocoa prices down, oil prices are going up, the wage bill is continued to spiral. You have the wage bill now accounting for 99% of all non-earmarked revenue. So if you take away the District Assembly Common Fund, you take away the NHIL, the GET Fund, virtually every revenue is going into paying salaries. So even if government wanted to continue to subsidize for these utilities, it will be barely impossible. It will mean that something must give. And will you say that salaries should be affected? Now, in that same breath, if you also come to consider the fact that salaries have gone up over the last 2 to 3 years, and depending on which sector you are talking about, the wage bill we know has moved from around it's gone up by more than 300% in percentage terms, over the last 2 to 3 years. So it's a very difficult time, and even if the PURC or government had wanted to protect, it would be almost impossible. And that's where I agree with Gabi in part, that if we allow the market forces to take control of the process, it will be more helpful, because instead of holding on for so long a period and then you slam 150%, it's more difficult to take. It's a more bitter pill to swallow Whereas if you had allowed the market forces and it was going up by, say, 5%, 6%, you know,
like we are doing for petroleum.
Yes, then that one. Because these days, you know, when petroleum prices even go up, you don't really, you know, hear all the talk and the anxiety which.
Will you be surprised? Will you be surprised at coming at a time when petroleum prices have, you know, inched up just a bit, and then you've had this one also coming that Labour will begin to agitate and say, we want more?
I would say Labour has gotten more, and after when all the facts were put out at that Labour conference, it was very clear that we cannot continue to be living beyond our means, and that we must look at even the revenue issue. How do we generate more revenue?
Okay.
And I would also want to add my voice to the need for us, our people, to see quality, the need for our people to see a stoppage in the wastage. There's a lot of wastage in the utility services, and it is important that those who run this, coupled with the need for a good face, a good interface. You know, you talk about what happened to you at the Dansuman ECG office, and it happens to all of us, and these reports come in every day. I remember that last week at the ministerial retreat, the president said that this is one of his priority areas where he wants to reform the public service. He has even asked that we should have a name and shame of officers who do not serve the public very well. He has asked that we even introduce some award scheme to incentivize and encourage those who are doing well. So this will be my remarks.
Great.
Great. Has it grown bigger?
Okay, it's meant to be a rhetorical question.
Yes, it has, but has the wage bill also grown bigger?
But that's exactly the point I'm making. Has our economy expanded?
Okay.
Has it grown? What is this thing about wage bill?
It has. The wage bill has also.
No, but the economy is supposed to have grown bigger.
All right, gentlemen,
But it didn't grow in isolation.
Oh, come on.
Let's
the
start.
Same old story.
Let's start substantively with the GMPC drill ship matter. And I'd like to start with Abdul Malik Kubaku Jr. And there's a comment from Yunu Samuel Nantib. He says, Mr. Host, please allow Kweku Baku to exhaust his facts on the GMPC saga. Please exhaust your facts. We are still chasing after documents. And in my introduction, I asked what may be a simplification or ignorant way of approaching the issue. How were the monies paid? Were they not paid through banks? Are these banks enabled to provide us with statements at this time? Did we not issue checks or we paid in cash to them? And the money we also told was paid to the Energy Ministry. Was it in cash or it was paid through a bank? Why are we having the difficulty in finding the documents?
Good question, especially the way you ended it. But correction, this is the first time I'm hearing that the monies were paid to the Ministry of Energy rather than Ministry of Finance.
Ministry of Finance. Yes. Sorry, correct. Thank you very much. Ministry of Finance.
But the point that you made finally about where are the documents, it's very important issue. It points to the poverty of our record keeping, the poor state of record keeping, and of course, lack of institutional memory. It should be an embarrassment to us as a country. And there are many instances of this kind of situation, and it's not good enough. But having made this general statement, we need to now look at the specifics because we are dealing with a specific issue. And it's important that we tackle that specific issue and let people get some understanding. You know, am I going to exhaust all my facts? I'm not too sure. The Judgment Debt Commission would eventually arrive at the exhaustion of the facts and provide us with, I believe, a resolution or a closure to this matter, in my candid opinion. Especially when all the facts, all the personalities, the key players in this unfolding if you permit me to say drama, are given the opportunity to make their case. I am aware that Kandapar has sent a petition or a letter, a statement of some sort, a copy of which I have here.
The commissioner noted that.
To the commission. So obviously he's slated to be invited. Katie Hammond has indicated he would also be of assistance if he's invited. I'm told President Kufuor, having seen the text of the statement, he's also indicated his willingness to cooperate. Out there, I believe you can access the court records.
Exactly.
It's very, very important that those records are assessed. The company that bought, that's a Frontier Drilling, that bought the ship, the drill ship, Frontier Drilling of Norway. I'm told they've changed the name of the drill ship.
Okay.
They are also available. You know, somebody's bought the company, so they come under a new name, they are available. So it's a process, and that is why I have been cautioning those who are jumping the gun and coming to judgmental conclusions that perhaps they are missing the point. But having said that, let's look at the proceedings of the Judgment Death Commission, and that's why my faith in the fact that as it continues, the process, if you like, the mystery, so to say, will be demystified. One, we began with a situation where the GMPC had gone to the commission to indicate that they had no involvement at all in the process, the transaction. For that matter, they had no records. The only record I think that was presented was the Kandapar letter that indicated how the ship had been sold and how much monies had been dispersed. Just that letter. It wasn't sufficient.
They had expected to see some indication in the handing over notes, and that didn't occur.
Well, but that was actually a bit of an uneducated input, you understand, because really, handing over notes from whom? From who to who? From Kandapar to Dr. Indum? Is that what the person was expecting? Is that what the person was expecting? I'm not too sure about that. The documentation, the records, if were properly kept, would have been available to Dr. Indum. When the minister at the tail end was exited, those final days, most times those things are contained in the handing over note. Not everything is that. He would have written a Bible or a Quran then. So let's just cut that out. But the most important thing,
they don't agree with those who think that this is such a huge, very important aspect of the ministry's, you know, transactions or dealings, that it could not have escaped any handing over notes.
Have you checked the handing over notes? Have you done a content analysis of the handing over notes and not realized that maybe the other things were not captured, and that he captured perhaps the finer things, assuming that the records were available for the minister to look? I mean, please, that's a red herring in my candid opinion, and should not be over elaborated. But the point I'm making is that there are, for instance, the board, the GMPC board, that was handing over to the transition, the Mills administration, did a 9-year day of the board, and in there was captured. I brought a copy. I have the copy here still. In there was captured the transaction and the value of the ship. Of what value did that become to the transition team and those who took over? Did they follow the trail? Indeed, when the GMPC went back, it even indicated that it had been captured in its audited account. December 2001 ended. Didn't they say that? They hadn't seen that earlier. That's the point I'm making. You see, this is a process. When you are invited to a commission of that nature and you have not prepared well, you indicate to the commission that you are not ready. Or if you go, you indicate that this is what I have at this stage. We have not finished searching. What is happening is that people go make certain statements at the commission, and we, the media, we are entitled to report, especially when it's fair and truthful. And then others outside run with what has been reported and make judgments. So the issue of GMPC's non-involvement, after we had fed on it for 48 hours, collapsed when they subsequently indicated their involvement to some extent and brought some documentation to that effect. I have here the power of attorney signed by the GMPC's acting managing director at that time, giving Katie Hammond the power of attorney, the right to go and do that. It's here. this document, if they had taken their time, they would have discovered it. There's also the resolution of the GMPC. Okay? There's also the indication from the Attorney General that yes, this is good business, this is a legal business, and that the documents they are holding are authentic. If those things had gone to the commission much earlier, some of the judgments that were drawn would not have been drawn. And that's the point I'm making, that since it's a process, I'm prepared, and I don't blame the commission. Let's be clear. I'm blaming those who are invited and go unprepared and go and make statements that then create the basis for people to say things that ought not to be said. Two, let's take, for instance, the point about no board, which was also said. And I believe in this case, it came from the commissioner himself as to why, if there was no board, on what basis was the resolution passed. I mean, I'm a layman, you know, I'm a street corner, if you like, lawyer. I've read the GMPC Act, the PNDC Law 64, and in my uneducated understanding, appreciation of this thing, I think that question was unnecessary, was red herring. If you look at this, first of all, GMPC is 100% owned by government, by the state. The government represents the state. If you look at this act very well, or law, the functions of the board, that's section 8F, it says subject to such guidelines and directives as the secretary may issue, act as a conciliator or appoint arbitrators in the settlement of disputes or claims affecting the corporation, and in general take any appropriate action of a legal nature for safeguarding the corporation's interest. If you move to 9.1, the board of directors may delegate any of its functions under this law to the managing director of the corporation. Now, in my candid opinion, if assuming without admitting there was no board, because that checks are still being made and I haven't yet arrived at the conclusion. If there was no board, the GMPC did not cease to function. The GMPC is responsible to the Ministry of Energy. That matter to government. There is a cabinet memo, a copy of which I have here, dated 8th May, that Kandapar submitted to government, to cabinet, requesting the authority to dispose of GMPC's marine assets, one of which was the Discoverer 511. On that basis, assuming there was no board, the cabinet, for that matter the government, and the Ministry of Energy had every authority under this law to instruct the GMPC managing director to enter into that business. So the point about no board, and so who gave the power of attorney or who passed the resolution is immaterial. It's a red herring. Right. So that too is resolved. Now Societe Generale.
If you can do that in a minute, so yes, you do 10 minutes by then.
The guy said I exhaust my first of thoughts. Yes. I have so many facts here too.
Great.
But the point is this, Societe Generale is also, the attention is drawn to this. And their point is that we don't have the records, because within some 10 years we have to discard the records. I think that's not a very solid reason, because if you were discarding the records in your circles, it ought to go to archives. At least some versions of them should be in archives. So I have a problem with that. I believe they perhaps don't even understand the significance of the exercise and we're undergoing here. But the point really is that no records is not synonymous with we didn't receive money.
Right.
No records does not mean we can't do a bank trail to find their financial statements. How come they terminated litigation? What happened? When they were not paid and litigation ceased,
okay,
they definitely received payment. So I believe that the commission should go back to Societe Generale with what you call further and better particulars of what exactly its mandate is. And Societe Generale could help. But bottom line, the court records could also be assessed,
right,
to assist. This matter, we are just moving step by step. At the end of the day, the so-called mystery will be demystified.
Great. Now, I come to you, Mr. Ablakwa. Now, last week, Kweku took us through a bit of the history behind how this came about. And we've had the Herald newspaper take us back to some time when Chachu Chikata, spoke about the matter. And I want to read some portions of that publication. It says, former GMPC boss, Mr. Chachu Chikata, has given a different account of events leading to the sale of the drill ship Discoverer 511 by the Kufuor government to defray 19.5 million US dollar judgment debt owed Societe Generale some 12 years ago. He suggested that Albert Kandapar and Kwabena Tahir Mohammed rush in disposing of the national asset instead of ensuring due diligence on the claims by the French bank. Chachu Chikata also denied charges leveled against him by Mr. Kandapar and Mr. Katie Hammond, who served as minister and deputy energy minister respectively in the Kufuor administration, as the ones who caused Ghana to lose its drill ship, now nicknamed Noble Discoverer by Dutch Shell from Frontier Discoverer by the Norwegians. The ex-GMPC boss revealed that prior to the sale of the drill ship, Societe Generale had lost 2 lawsuits filed against GMPC and suggested that the French company was on its way to lose the 3rd time in a case it had filed in the UK High Court when the Kufuor government hurriedly sold the drill ship to settle the debt after failing to send lawyers to fight the case brought against Ghana. Mr. Chikata made denials as well as revelations as far back as 2001 at a press conference following an earlier one held on August 8, 2001 by Mr. Kandapar, in which he leveled several allegations against Mr. Chikata. Prior to Mr. Kandapar's press conference, a government spokesperson on July 27, 2001 had earlier issued a statement to the effect that the Discoverer had been sold to pay for losses incurred by Mr. Chikata in derivatives transactions with Societe Generale, a bank headquartered in Paris, which had obtained a judgment against GMPC in the total sum of 47 million. According to Mr. Chikata, before Societe Generale brought their claim in the London High Court, they had earlier in 1998 filed a suit in the United States in the District Court in Houston, seeking an order to have the GMPC drill ship moved to the US and detained by them upon conclusion of its contract in Mexico. This suit, this is instructive, he says this suit was brought against the US company that had chartered the drill ship, as well as GMPC. The case of Societe Generale was thrown out, and when they appealed to the Court of Appeal in New Orleans, they were again unsuccessful. It emerged in those proceedings that Societe Generale has sought legal advice about taking action in Mexico, where the drill ship was operating, or in Panama, where the drill ship was registered, and they realized that they could not succeed in either jurisdiction if they filed a suit. That is Chachu Chikata speaking. In the end, he's saying that the government rushed, and when Societe Generale filed a suit later on in the UK, we did not go and defend the matter. This is where we are now. So all those who are shouting and claiming that it is Chachu Chikata who has led us to this loss, they are wrong.
Yeah, Samson, these are certainly very interesting times. And it is important that one is not prejudicial to the ongoing judgment debt commissioner's work. And so statements made
okay, if
by
you don't mind, if you don't mind, just give me a minute, and I want to speak to Jay Atukobi, who is a senior media relations officer for the GMPC, and he thinks that some facts have been churned out, especially by Kokubako, which are inaccurate. Mr. Atukobi, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning and thank you for welcoming me.
Great. What exactly is your intervention?
Yeah, Koku's intervention basically suggested that GMPC appearance before the commission and the manner in which we presented ourselves created the problems of miscommunication that ensued thereafter. And that is why I want to clarify this. Because first, when Nana Wacha that the GMPC chief executive appeared, he was asked about his knowledge of the transaction. And he had some personal knowledge because from sometime later part of 2000, so around early April 2001, he was the acting chief executive. So he told the commission about his knowledge of the transaction, that is how the GMPC litigation with Societe Generale arose through a transaction, and that Societe Generale had gone to court in 1999, and that GMPC had contested their claim using UK law firm Bindman and Partners. And that after changeover of government, Bindman and Partners were asked to transfer to back up the case, and the case was transferred to the Attorney General. That which documents related to the correspondence between GMPC and the lawyers and also on the case were transferred to the Attorney General Department. But he was able to send it the commission the letter from the then Minister of Energy, counterpart, GMPC board chairman, which talked about how much was it the rig, this GMPC rig was sold for, and how much was paid to Societe Generale, and how much was paid at least, how much was paid into an escrow account, and how much was paid to a Ministry of Finance. But then there were specific questions that were asked, which were that, have you seen the judgment based on which this payment was made? And he said so. And as we speak now, we have not cited this document. And he had no personal knowledge of it because at that time, he was not the acting chief executive then. He had been asked to proceed on this. So there was specific. He was again asked about the payment, the sale of the D511 in terms of whether we were there and the transaction. Do you have any document covering the transaction? And he said no, because we haven't seen any such document. So I believe as the commission proceed and subsequently that he was there, he went personally to engage in the transaction. So I believe as they appear and narrate what exactly transpired out there, we will see where those documents are, because it is a fact that GMPC
okay. You are breaking. Your line is breaking. If you can reposition yourself. Hello, Mr. Atukobi. Okay, your line is breaking. I would be grateful if you can reposition yourself and in 30 seconds tell me exactly what contradiction or inaccurate statement you are talking about. And if you are hearing for the first time, as you attribute to Kwaku Baako, that he's the one saying what you are responding to.
No, I talked about misinterpretation or misreporting. Basically, that miscommunication arose from misreporting. That's why I had to clarify it.
Okay, but
for instance, it was on the 13th of, on the 12th of September, on the second appearance of the GMPC chief executive, that he appeared on the 11th. Then on the 12th, we have the front pages talking about these documents missing, and they were quoting incidentally a document that the GMPC had tendered in evidence on the 22nd of August.
Okay, so you have spoken to a few matters, very critical. You admit that you conceded that you did not have documents covering the transaction. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. And that you had not also cited the judgment.
Yes.
Great. He speaks about your preparation, which he questions. When you are appearing before the commission, Kwaku Baako speaks about your preparation before appearing before the commission. You don't think that is a fair comment to say that to prepare before such a commission, you ought to have armed yourself with this documentation which can be accessed according to the narration that we are having so far. The court documentation should be available. The documentation in respect of the transaction should also be available.
Audited accounts.
No, what happened was that
where was it before they went to the commission?
Hello?
Yeah, he asked the third question. You sent the audited accounts
December
subsequently.
2001.
Where was it before you went earlier without?
Yeah, that's why say that, you see, the commission invited pairs to, with knowledge on the transaction. So GMPC chief executive went and gave this narration as I spoke about earlier. Then the commission, again, on the first appearance, then they said, we give you September 16th to reappear, go on searching, based on the specific questions they asked, and get us some more documentation. So based on those specific questions, GMPC, we conducted further searches. We've been able to provide documentation to them. But even before the 16th September, that was when we appeared on the 11th of September. And it was on the 11th September that they had invited with a specific subpoena to provide board minutes, audited accounts, covering that period. So it was this documentation presented on September 11th. That's when we appeared on September 16th. The commission asked questions on.
Okay,
so
is it
having been captured in the audited account?
Right.
What was captured in the account was basically what the accountant who was there on that September 16th told the commission that it was based on the communication that they received from the ministry that it had been sold for such an amount, 24 billion. So they went through the books. This is an asset which is being depreciated, etc. So
okay, so
the information communicated
Mr.
by
Kobe,
the ministry.
thank you very much for your intervention. I'll let you go at this point. But yes or no, tell me, do you insist that it is not fair to say that your first appearance, you appeared ill-prepared? Based on the questions, questions you were not able to answer.
No, it is not accurate.
Thank you very much. J. Atokobi is a senior media relations officer of the GNPC.
Well, I insist they were ill-prepared.
All right.
You see, honestly,
I think his point is that it is not accurate to be ill-prepared.
Okay. I think the point has been made.
You knew you were going to deal with GMPC
Great.
issues, particularly the ratio. A little due diligence in terms of search of all documentation, not necessarily what you think you will be asked.
Okay.
It's appropriate.
All right.
But anyway, I can understand why my brother Atu is being defensive. He has to do what he's doing.
Okay, Sami.
Yeah, it's interesting that Abdul Malik Kwekubaku is very concerned about preparation, and yet it doesn't seem to be preparation on the part of GMPC, the new GMPC management, and doesn't appear to be concerned about the woeful lack of preparation by those who engage in the transaction and those who sold a drillship, who have not been able to, who have not
poverty of record keeping, and lack of institutional memory. Don't do that to me. If you think you want to do that, I'll do worse.
No, when it comes to KT Hammond, Kandapa, and co. It's about poor record keeping. It's about lack of institutional memory. But when it comes to GMPC, he's very hard on GMPC. He says that ill preparedness. How can you accuse them? How can you accuse them? How can you accuse the GMPC of ill preparedness when you admit that the documents are not there? That the people themselves who engage in the transactions can't find the documents. They have not been able to indicate to us how they sold that drill ship, who were the transaction advisors. We have had no receipts, no bank transfer documents. The $3.5 million balance, which Katie Hammond says he carried in a check. The whole episode begins to look like some tabletop tomato business, where checks are carried in briefcases. If you listen to Katie Hammond, he says, I put a check in my suitcase and I brought it down, and I met President Kufuor and he patted me on the back that you've done a yeoman's job, good job. Let's see the check. And then he went to pay the check he went to give the check to the finance minister. Now, no records to show at the finance ministry, no records to show at the Bank of Ghana. So I am only saying that let's be fair. If we want to accuse people of ill preparedness, let's go way back to those who engage in the transaction. But some fundamental issues. I think, first of all, this whole discussion is particularly interesting for me. A few months ago, the impression was being created in this country that the NDC government is the government that has introduced judgment debt and had become judgment debt contractors who were being called creators and looters and sharers, and that as for the NPP, they hardly will pay judgment debts. They will make sure all records are there. They will pay painfully, and they will not be in a hurry to pay at all. And that even if they will pay, they will have, if they have to even go to a court in heaven before they will think about paying, that's when they will do that. But this is a case that we see that payments have been made, and the judgment upon which the payment was made is still mysterious. Because Mr. Chachuchikata is contesting the fact that there was any judgment. He says that, of course, a court case was on. He had made counterclaims that the court processes had begun from New Orleans to Houston, and that in the first 2 rounds, Societe Generale had failed to put their hand on the drill ship, and that they did not succeed. If you read Chachuchikate's first statement on this.
It's not the same case.
Now, it is also important to point out that as we speak, as to who the valuers were and whether the valuation of this drill ship to be sold at $24 million, whether Ghana got value for money. Because if this same drill ship, Discoverer 511, earned us a few months before the sale $15 million just by being in the Mexico waters and doing some work in Mexico, we got $15 million in just one operation of the drill ship.
It's not interesting.
That is Chachuchikate's claim.
Not in one exercise.
And then, if we can get $50 million in less than a year, and then you are selling the entire thing forever, for good, for $24 million. Who did the valuation? Are we sure we got value for money? Now, even after the valuation, the payments that were made to Societe Generale, we haven't seen any documentation yet as to whether indeed $19.5 million was paid to them. So this whole thing is bizarre. And you remember some time ago, we had to talk about how we were struggling to find documents and all of that.
Did you find it a bit curious, just this point, do you find it a bit curious that Societe Generale responds to the commission says, we don't have the documents, but the more important question is, did you receive the money? Did you find it curious that that didn't seem to have featured?
Yes, I find it very curious. And I must tell you, I was not impressed with Societe Generale's outing at all. I was not. And I think they have to come back and be more open to the Judgment Debt Commission. And you see, these sales, I am reliably informed that there were a lot more, that helicopters were sold, that there are many other speedboats that were sold. And today, we've had to be hiring these helicopters from Ivory Coast as we are drilling and all of that. Why were these decisions taken? So it's clear to me that this is just a tip of the iceberg. This is just the opener. And that this particular case is going to really unravel a lot. And
you asked the question, why were these assets sold? Do you have the answer to it?
I don't. That's what I'm asking. And it is for those who engage in the sales to tell us why they sold them.
They give you one of the answers. They say GMPC was becoming insolvent, was saddled with so much debt.
So much debt. Who made that determination? Who made the determination? What is the empirical basis for coming to that conclusion? Is GMPC not justified today?
Their indebtedness to Societe Generale,
all the work they did, the seismic data and all of that, leading to the discovery of oil. It tells me that as a layman who is not an oil expert, that Chachuchikate and the GMPC were not engaged in a wild goose chase, that Ghana was not having oil or could not be a commercial oil country, and that we indeed had a potential, and that all of the work they did, they have been vindicated today. So some can choose to cut out that part of history and claim that Ghana's oil discovery processes began only in 2001 after they had come to sell and dismember GMPC. We saw similar things happening with Ghana Airways. Where are Ghana Airways assets? Ghana Airways houses. Who are those who ended up buying it for cheap? And we can cite many, many examples. I mean, we behave like some spoiled children in this country. Look at the number of Nkrumah. And And I'm speaking, we can all the political traditions, especially since 1992.
As far as I can recall, I can recall the airways matters are still matters that are pending and live in the court, right?
Yeah. And so that I told you in the beginning that I would make general statements. So the point is that we have been very reckless in this country. And I think this is a very sad commentary about the political leadership. And people come out boldly, beat their chest. They say that they carry checks across oceans. I mean, what if they were attacked? What kind of check? Was it an open check that anybody could cash? I mean, what happened? What I mean, it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. What happened to bank transfers?
You should have
couldn't monies be wired? I mean, so we couldn't. I mean, the banks in Ghana are not linked to international banks that you can't wire the $3.5 million balance into a Bank of Ghana account or consolidated account. I mean, it's so ridiculous, you know. And I can understand the laughter here, but very seriously, Samson, I think that those engaged in these transactions ought to be doing better than they are doing. Please provide the documents. When you did the transfer in London, the $19.5 million, where is the documentation? Let's see it. Instead of hopping from one radio station, contradicting yourselves, tell us. Now there's even a controversy as to who was the first to see the check, who collected the check. Was it President Kufuor? Was it the finance minister? I mean, bizarre.
Is Alex Edu Mensah running ahead of himself? He says, Dr. Benjamin Kumbo says, we should stop talking and think. He wants to think for the government. Samson, my question is, why can't the government go ahead and arrest Kandapar and KT Hammond for them to refund the lost monies now that we are being urged to talk less and think more?
They are claiming that there's no money lost. There's a judgment, the commission doing its work. It will be very premature for government to go in and begin arresting people. You haven't done that with earlier cases which have come up before the judgment, the commission. So government will be seen as being very selective and vindictive.
The commission will make recommendations in the end.
It would have to be after the recommendations have been made by the judgment, the commission. But it's clear that people must put up or shut up all this noise, these media circuits. Where are the receipts? Where are the transaction documents? Up to now, even the transaction advisors, we don't know them. There is rumor all over town that it was a law firm that Mr. KT Hammond worked for. I cannot confirm. You know, all these things will have to be proven. Let us see the documentation, because there's also a certain tendency in this country. Whereas politicians claim that there's poor record management in our civil service and in the governmental sector, there doesn't seem to be poor record management system in their homes and under their beds. When they are really pushed to the wall, they are able to, bring out one document or the other, which state institutions do not have. You know, so is it deliberate? Do people deliberately take away files?
Well, if you don't have any difficulties looking for your own money, and you want to get a car, you want to get a Mercedes-Benz, a Toyota, Infiniti, Range Rover, or you name it, the best place to go and get the best and the cheapest cars, brand new and slightly used, is Erata Motors. Erata Motors are at Lagos Avenue, opposite Body Talk, near GTB Bank, East Legon, or call them on 0244 445-268 or 0277-486-800 and get the best vehicle deal in town. Erata Motors, the best vehicles at the best prices. Gavi, you're still looking for the documents, but the critical question that the ordinary Ghanaian is asking on the streets is what became a slogan, Nasika no Wehe.
Well, I think I welcome this, and I think really whatever happens, getting to the bottom is a possibility, and you can trace it and get to the bottom. I find something rather curious about this whole matter. I think it's been made more complex than it ought to be, and I'll tell you why. One, it appears as if let's say I'm a member of a family, and the family is supposed to owe Agaga's family. And then, rather than me asking, is it true that we owe Agaga's family? That's the first question. Did we owe Agaga? Yes or no? Yes. Are we saying we paid? Yes. Is Agaga complaining that we didn't pay him? No. Is Agaga chasing our family for his money that we paid him? No. So, which money are we looking for? I don't know if I'm making sense. I mean, you know, you can strip all the legal and all the so-called complexities, record keeping and the rest of it.
And who is making it this complex?
I'm just saying, because it's really such a simple issue.
Really?
And I tell you
so
why.
what happens to the 3.5?
No, I'm coming. It's such a simple issue. Because the first thing you have to ask is, did we owe the bank, SG? How much did we owe the bank? Is there any dispute as to the quantum of debt? Yes. Because apparently it was 47 million. Is there any dispute?
Yeah, there is.
Was that dispute settled in court?
No.
Who's saying no?
Chachu.
Chachu is saying no.
Yes.
And is the court, where was Chachu?
He said the court did not determine.
What
that
court?
There was no judgment.
He's talking about a court where? In the UK? Yeah. The court did not determine.
Yeah. Have you seen the judgment?
Oh, no, I'm asking questions. Has Chachu seen the judgment?
Yeah,
has he made it available to the
court? He has challenged us that there's no such judgment.
There's no such judgment?
Yeah.
So, was there a settlement? No, I mean, I mean, is he saying that...
So you're now coming to settlement?
No,
because in Kandapa's first press conference on this, he used judgment.
No.
He said
but it's
judgment.
fine, I'm saying, I haven't moved. I'm asking questions. I'm asking...
Yeah, no, but he's creating the differentiation. He's moved from judgment to settlement.
Was there a settlement?
Chachu says there wasn't.
Chachu says there wasn't a settlement.
Yes, he says
is GMPC saying there wasn't a settlement? Is
SG looking for the proof?
Is SG saying there was no settlement? Now, first of all, look. So, is there any dispute as to GMPC owing SG? Is there any dispute?
There's a dispute in the quantums. The quantum.
As to what? It wasn't 47 million.
Yes. Those who have the emphatic answers are not putting out the documentation.
Who are those?
Katie Hammond.
Why would Katie? No. Is it Katie Hammond's job to have documents?
He engaged in the transaction.
No, but he engaged on behalf of the ministry.
Yes. And he's been speaking. He says that we should come to him.
Okay. That he has documents.
Okay, yes. so let's end the cross-examination at this point. Go on and put your case. Yeah.
I'm fascinated about the check.
The check? Oh, I'm not fascinated about the check.
Really? That's how you conduct government business.
Oh, but I at the end of the day, look, there are all sort of ways.
I'm here to see it.
No, you have not been hired as counsel for Newsfile.
I would have been fascinated if he came to Ghana. If he came to Ghana with briefcases of cash and saying that this is our share of the sale.
A check is as good as cash.
I'm just saying, I would have been fascinated by that. Oh, checks, we see checks happening all the time. So that's not really the issue. Because, so to me, we're going around the issue. You need documents, there's absolutely no two ways about it. If there's a court in the UK where this case was taken and settled, trust me, even if we have issues of record keeping in Ghana, the records will be in the UK court. There's no two ways about it. That I can say for a fact. Even if the case was in our courts, I'm sure you find the records in our courts. So
it's so easy and simple getting the records in the UK.
Absolutely.
Yet nobody can get it.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
nobody. It's not Katie. Katie Hammond has no locus.
We'll see the judgment next week.
Kandapa has no locus. Former President Kufuor has no locus going to the court in the UK necessarily to get the records. It's not his business. It's the business.
Anybody at all.
Anybody can do that.
Can have
the commission should do it now.
He has no locus doing that. It's not his job to do that.
As for the locus he has, it's about whether he wants to do it or not.
I think the commission should rather.
Let's not argue with that.
Okay, so you go on.
Okay, but I'm just saying that it's not his job to do it. It's the job of this government. It's the job of the of the commission that has been set up?
He who alleges.
Yeah, who is alleging? It's the court, the commission, and the government. And it's so simple. I'm not too sure why we are. It's as if we are more interested in playing politics with it and using it as a whip against. So there's also judgment debt. You heard him. There was judgment debt on the MPP. I mean, there's always judgment debt. It is the integrity of the judgment debt that we're talking about. I mean, look, use half of the energy.
And I don't smell any integrity in this one.
Oh, I'm not interested in whether. I think you have a flu, but it's not the issue here. As far as I'm concerned, look, let them go to. There are places that they can go to and get the results. Once you find,
Chachi says that we were using external solicitors. We decided that we wanted to use the Attorney General to go ahead to deal with this matter, and then we have a suit. We don't enter into the suit, and then cheap they take it because they are falling on 2 counts. They tried the first one, they didn't succeed. They tried the second one, they didn't succeed. And the third one, he is so certain that Ghana would have been successful as well.
But the issue is how. Let's not also get. Why didn't it succeed? Was it a matter of jurisdiction? Was it some technicality?
Lack of representation.
No. It's talking about the two cases that didn't succeed in America. I don't know the facts.
That time, Chachu says we're being represented by external solicitors.
Yeah, but I'm saying it doesn't matter whether it's external. It's really whether the court had jurisdiction. That could also be an issue. So is that why they ended up in London? Was that in the contract that So they all sort of thing, because what did they want to do? They wanted to what? To get the
seize the ship.
Absolutely. That's really. And why did they want to seize the ship? Because we owe them money. So what? They ended up in London. And what happened in London? Wasn't it established that we owe them money?
We're not there to make a point.
We didn't go there at all.
That's what he said.
And that's what Chachu is saying. And is that what government is saying? And is that what the records in the court is saying?
Yeah, because K.T. Hammond went to London alone. He didn't go with anybody from the Attorney General's department.
Who told you that?
That's what he has said. He said he went to London.
That's what he said. By that time, our ship had been sequestered.
I'm not here to defend it, but I'm just saying that there must be record also. Because I've heard, was it K.T. Hammond? They said that there were legal fees. Was the legal fees paid to K.T. Hammond? Or was paid to an established law firm? And there are no records of that?
Even that, there's an issue. $1 million.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, but we can find the reasons, because I'm not too sure how, because, money it's not really an issue of what K.T. Hammond was giving cash, or was giving a check, or the check went to the law firm, and the law firm took a share and gave the rest to government of Ghana for K.T. Hammond to, we can find the answers.
Right.
And really, to me, I would also want a similar energy being put into bringing to being the judgment of the Supreme Court in the Waterville matter. Apparently, we have some 47 million euros to claim. Are we going after that too? Are we?
Of course,
we are.
Of course.
The Attorney General had indicated earlier that they were taking steps to.
Have they taken those steps?
The fruits of those judgments.
100 days now.
The steps have been taken.
100 days now.
At least
since the Supreme Court ruled. 100 days now. Or what?
Okay, Gabi,
they are trying to discover their
I
steps.
take a quick break at this point. When I return, James Agalga will have a say on this matter. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. Thank you very much. Now, get a head start in life towards your dream job. Be part of MTN Career Fair on Thursday, the 26th of September at the National Theatre from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. sharp. Come receive free guidance and counseling tips on how to write compelling CVs to land that great job, how to prepare for interviews, plus loads of MTN airtime and souvenirs. Get the opportunity to meet with recruitment agencies and prospective employers for job interviews during and after the fair. Just send yes to MTN short code 1397 to receive a link and follow the steps to register. After registration, forward your CV to careerfair@mtn.com.gh for assessment. This is brought to you by MTN in partnership with the following recruiting agencies: Rakes Company, Montreal, Reliance, Personal, and a host of other participating corporate firms. MTN Career Fair, giving you a head start in your career. Welcome to the new world. MTN everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply. Now, Shiftman in Atonso Right, KT Hammond, has given all the necessary explanation that Ghanaians need on the ship saga. The Mahama government has lost its focus on good governance, hence this confusion. The NDC should be serious for once. Zakaria Yahaya in Spain, right? Did I hear Honorable Agalga say they are social democrats? We are in interesting times in Ghana and only God can save us. Samson, I want to know if the deputy minister pay tariffs we are paying for the decisions we made during the 2012 elections. Ni Aite says, in this day and age when our wives and sisters have to be washed with sachet water in hospitals after delivery, political leadership is rather excited about commemorating the birthday of a dead visionary leader with a holiday. Nkrumah would be very angry with the blatant failure of the current leaders and protesting quietly against the commemoration. Spike in Ohio, USA says, it's appalling for tariff to be unnecessarily increased when the services provided still remain deplorable and untouched. I urge fellow Ghanaians to fight these arbitrary increases. Sam Brian Boabing in Awoshi writes, the drill ship belonging to the GNPC was sold under the NPP, and so what? The Chachuchikata not gamble with Societe Generale over a report that said Ghana had gas and oil on the shores of Tano South, although we did not have it, and that led to a debt to the tune of $47 million US. Sometimes you wonder what these people gain from this vile propaganda. Akropong, Ojura Festival. I'll tell you about the Akropong Ojura Festival shortly and what you need to know about our Dome FM doing in that respect.
By the way, has the AMA boss changed the name of the international airport?
International airport?
Kotoka International, yeah.
Why is there a change? You're seeking to have a change?
It's now called K.
It's called K?
Oh, the others have fallen.
You don't think this is Photoshop?
No, right.
I see.
I think the others have fallen.
The others have fallen. Okay, we just need to put them back. Okay, now, James, let's quickly deal with this matter and move on to the others.
Yes. Sami, I have been listening with keen interest to submissions made by Okujeto and Kweku Baku. I'll deal with the issue Kweku Baku raised in relation to the GMPC law in a moment. You see, Sami, Chachu issued a statement as far back as 2001 and raised very critical issues, which issues still beg for answers. I want us to focus our attention on that important statement. First of all, it is argued that the ship was sold as a result of a judgment debt. How did the judgment debt come about? Chachu clearly says that, look, the same Societe Generale had brought a suit in the U.S., the Eastern Magistrate Court, and they sought an order to detain the ship and, of course, sell it after it had, concluded its drilling activities in Mexico and failed. Now, they appealed. The Court of Appeal of New Orleans threw out the appeal. It had no merit. Then, the same Chachu submits further that in the course of the proceedings before the courts in the U.S., it came out very clear in the evidence that Societe Generale had sought legal advice as to whether or not they could bring an action in Mexico, where the ship, of course, was
Technically,
drilling.
they were forum shopping.
That's right. Or Panama, where the ship had been registered. And in fact, the legal advice was not favorable. And so they abandoned bringing further suits in those jurisdictions. It is in relation to the same facts, the same so-called judgment that the Societe Generale then decided, with the passage of time, to issue a fresh action, bring a fresh action before the High Court in the UK. Now listen to Chachu. Chachu says he filed an affidavit in that matter. Several affidavits were filed for and on behalf of GMPC. The solicitors, Ghana and the GMPC, for that matter, contracted to represent us, were doing well. They had filed several applications and were doing well until President Kufuor assumed the reins of power. Immediately, what did we see? Nana Akufo-Addo was the Attorney General at the time. Chachu admits that, yes, we owed the solicitors at the time. But that was no reason why the solicitors would withdraw representation.
And our debts were piling.
No, they continued to represent us. Those issues were being sorted out. Yeah. But the moment Nana Akufo-Addo became Attorney General,
that is still there.
The government issued a directive, right, to the effect that the solicitors who were ably representing us should withdraw representation, and that the Attorney General's department was now going to personally take charge of the prosecution of the matter on behalf of the GMPC. So the solicitors filed appropriate processes in court and withdrew representation. Then the story begins to unfold. Yeah. We refused consistently to show up in court, and Societe Generale then took advantage of our lack of representation to amend the writ they had issued. And that then resulted in the judgment that we're saddled with, which eventually resulted in the sale of the ship. These are the hardcore facts who should be brought to the fore for Ghanaians to know.
So in other words, you are now admitting that Chachu admits that there was a judgment debt, because
of course, I mean, it's in the statement. It's in the statement.
All right, go on.
But I am interested in the circumstances leading to the judgment debt. There was some recklessness on the part of government officials. The Attorney General at the time, we need him to come and explain why, after withdrawing...
What is the recklessness? Please explain.
Please,
no, explain.
Please,
we can't just...
I'm building a point.
He's explaining.
When he became Attorney General, Nana Akufo-Addo, he ordered the solicitors who were representing us in the UK to cease to represent us, to pave the way for him to take charge of the prosecution of the matter for the GMPC. What happened? When the solicitors withdrew, they consistently refused to show up in court. And Societe Generale then took advantage of our lack of representation and proceeded to amend their writ. Then the amendment then culminated in that judgment that we became saddled with. So I am saying that, one, Nana Akufo-Addo needs to account for...
Amended their rate from what? 47 million to 19 million.
He was asking you about recklessness. So you want to say some laxity, or Koku will say some ineptitude?
No, I would use the word recklessness. Yeah.
But because how can you use the word recklessness when the government at the time comes out to say that it was 47 million.
You don't show up in court. Why? You want him to use absenteeism?
You are a lawyer, and you know what
you means. From 47 million to 19.5 million.
You take up a brief. You take up a brief. You don't show up in court consistently.
No, really.
What do you want him to say?
Okay. Sabi, it's the same situation that have led to judgment debt in our courts in this country.
You are a lawyer, and you know how your client's interest can be hurt. If you, upon taking instructions from your client, you fail to turn up in court.
Maybe you can use absenteeism. Maybe it may suit.
Where's the absenteeism?
I mean, clearly. Go on. And so, Sabi, for me, the point I'm making here is that, you remember, when the Waterville judgment debt saga became a subject for discussion, you know, many people pointed accusing fingers at the Attorney General at the time and so on. You see what happened in this case?
What happened?
Clearly, representation was withdrawn. AG was supposed to act Nana Akufo-Addo. He failed to turn up in court. We need him to come and explain to us why they decided to terminate the service of the solicitors we contracted in the UK to pave the way for him to represent us as Attorney General, only for him to refuse to represent the interest of Ghana.
I ask a question. Don't you appreciate the passage of time, the length of time, and what that meant for our indebtedness to Societe Generale, and also continuing to pay solicitors? Very expensive fees.
Listen to Chachu Chikata. Affidavits had been filed, and the same arguments that were canvassed in the courts in Houston, and of course the New Orleans Court of Appeal, were still relevant. They were relevant. Sammy, you are a lawyer, you know how relevant some of these precedents can be. So if they lost those two suits, what was the justification that they would win the third suit on the same facts? That is why Chachu says that they were well on their way cruising to victory. In the UK, when all of a sudden, there was withdrawal of legal representation, which then resulted in an amendment of the writ, and its subsequent, of course, the subsequent entry of judgment, because we're not turning up in court.
But you know also that the suggestion of automatic third victory is not.
Of course, in law that
because you could win first, second, and then.
But you see, the blame lies squarely at the doorsteps of Nana Akufo-Addo, KT Hammond, and Kufuor's administration, because they disabled us from having representation in court.
Can I come in for a second?
You cannot have an excuse for this. You cannot have an excuse for this.
Let me come in.
And so we need them to come and explain.
Let me end.
How come they found it necessary to withdraw the services of the solicitors who were ably representing us, so that maybe we could have better representation in Nana Akufo-Addo and his colleagues at the department.
You made that point. Quickly address the issue of the GMPC law, and where Kweku suggested that in the meantime, when he's hopeful that we are likely to find the legal processes that allow them to proceed with the transaction. But in the absence of that, his reading of the law suggests that the company could have gone ahead to engage in such transaction. You say you have an issue with that?
Yes, seriously. Malik Abdul Kweku Bako tried to create the impression that the question posed by the commissioner, the sole commissioner, for him was a red herring. I beg to disagree with him. I mean, the law has relied upon, the GMPC law doesn't support that submission. You see, his argument is that GMPC is under the control of the government, and that even in the absence of a board, the managing director could have acted. I mean, the decision to dispose of
he didn't make that a conclusive proposition.
Under the instructions of the minister or government. It's here.
Which he refers to as secretary over here.
Yeah, it's a secretary, PNDC secretary.
Right.
Yes.
It's now it's government minister.
Yes. Well, I still have a problem with that. You see, he read section 9.
8 and 9. 8F and 9.
Yes.
I put it together.
Subject to set guidelines and directives as the secretary may issue, act as a conciliator or appoint arbitrators in the settlement of disputes or claims affecting the corporation, and in general take any appropriate action of a legal nature for safeguarding the corporation's interests. Well, the position is
appointed
that
some arbitrator.
Of course.
That's the key point.
Now the question is, did they appoint an arbitrator in relation to the sale of the Discoverer? Did they? Yeah. In any case, the functions of the board are very clear.
The resolution shows it. Yeah.
Sami, Section 8.
The power of attorney and
Section
the resolution
8
points to it.
Tells us what the functions of the board are. Let me read it for the benefit of our viewers.
I am interested, and I think the people who are listening to us, very discerning people, are waiting for you to effectively rebut what he said.
Good, I'm coming to that. The board of directors, that is Section 8, shall, subject to the provisions of this law, have general control of the management, property, and my emphasis is on property, business and funds of the corporation, and any other affairs and concerns thereof. Then Section 9 says, the board of directors may delegate any of its functions under this law to the managing director of the corporation.
Yes.
And 2, the managing director shall be responsible to the board for the due execution of any functions delegated to him under section 1 of this section.
Yeah.
You see, if you read these provisions together, you cannot conclude that a minister can, acting on his
in
own.
the absence of the board. That's the point we are discussing here.
That is not what is stated here. I'm coming. I'm coming. If you read this law, I've read this law several times.
I'm talking of the commissioner saying there was no board.
I'm coming.
Is that not the point we are discussing?
Yes, and the commissioner's position
so
is
that in the
if there was no board, then the transaction, the sale of the ship, definitely was problematic, and you have an issue with that.
Yes.
My position is
because the GMPs didn't cease to exist or function.
My position is that
and it comes under the ministry and government.
Shareholders
Is government.
You relied on section 9. I'm saying that.
No, I relied on section 8F and 9.
That's
Please
right.
be fair to me.
This is my argument. Let me conclude. You see, you cannot delegate when the board is not in existence. So the board couldn't have delegated the minister. That is number 1. Number 2, please. Number 2, if you are relying on the F, that is 8F. 8F,
the secretary is the minister.
Yes, 8F would suggest that, fine, the minister could take certain decisions in the absence of a board. But when the board is finally constituted, what must he do?
Of course. But if the board is not there, it's what we are discussing.
Go back for ratification. Did he?
Oh, please.
Did they?
So now you see, you are shifting.
So the position I'm making is that these arguments,
in actual fact, you've arrived at where I accept you are asking us to.
The law doesn't support those arguments.
Unfortunately, I'm not a judge. I can't make a ruling and determine which of you has the superior argument.
Well, I thought you being a lawyer.
You are very plausible positions that can be argued in a court of law. If I can take about 2 minutes.
No, 2 minutes too small.
We need to get to the other issue.
No, please. Let's deal with the issues properly.
Let me bring this information to your attention. From the Attorney General's Department, according to the Minister, the Attorney General's Department, they have filed writs and statements of claim in respect of both Waterville and Isophoton, and that is more importantly for you, Gabi. Waterville has been served and has entered conditional appearance. We will get information. I'll get some further information as to whether or not Isophoton has also been duly served as well. So it's important to put that on record that they are in active steps
my newspaper
to get us the fruits of the judgment that Martin Amidu won for the country.
Something. That's good. To be honest, this is a very important issue, but I'll try as much as possible and be fast with it. This thing about court cases in the U.S., specific, it was about them wanting the ship, the drill ship,
to detain it,
to be detained, pending the conclusion of litigation.
The court refused because it was not in the territory.
The case in London, in the UK court, was not just question of detaining a ship. It was litigation on the indebtedness of GMPC to Societe Generale. Subsequent, in the course of the proceedings, when the ship then got into the territorial waters of Oman, then they thought it was easier there to capture the ship. So please, let's draw that extension carefully. So whatever happened in the Houston and New Orleans court necessarily will not impact on the generality of the litigation.
This cannot be accurate.
But I am telling you, let me read Houston. Let me read.
Let him read. He has
this is statute statement. Previous lawsuit by Societe Generale in the U.S. Before Societe Generale brought their claim in the London High Court, they had earlier in 1998 filed a suit in the U.S. in the District Court in Houston, seeking an order to have the GMPC drill ship 511 moved to the U.S. and detained by them upon conclusion of its contract in Mexico. The emphasis here is the seizure of the ship that was at stake. The same thing, this suit was brought against the U.S. company that had chartered the drill ship as well as GMPC. The case of Societe Generale was thrown out, and when they appealed to the Court of Appeal in New Orleans, they were again unsuccessful. The point here is this. It was the Caesar.
You don't go to court.
Let him finish. He's finishing that point. 30 seconds. He's finishing that point.
You will have a time.
They were seeking in the U.S. court. They were seeking the detention, the Caesar of the ships, of the ship. In the UK court, it was the general litigation, the question of the indebtedness, the contract that they had signed. The overall contract was the object of litigation. Part of it, the fallout of it was the detention, the order to detain. They had been unsuccessful on two attempts, but were successful on the third attempt because the ship was now within Oman. So I am saying there's a fine line of distinction. Right. But I haven't finished. Let me finish. Now, see,
let me take a reaction, particularly to this one.
Okay, you see, you don't just go to court and ask for orders in the nature of what the detention of objects, or goods or whatever, preservation or whatever. It is dependent upon something. Yeah. So why did they seek to detain the ship in the US? What was the reason?
Please don't allow him to confuse. Please don't confuse.
What was the reason? Gabi, sorry, I am not confused.
Don't allow him to confuse me.
No, I am not confused. Hold on.
I'll tell you why he's confusing. I'll tell you why he's confusing.
Gabi, stop insulting the public.
But not him.
As the public told you.
Gentlemen, hold on. And I was saying that I am not confused.
I'm not talking about
so that if for example, he took it basic to land litigation. It is upon the basis of the land that you are litigating that you ask for an injunction.
Yes. So the most important thing is that you know where litigation will go.
Right.
No, the jurisdiction.
Let's make the point.
You don't ask for injunction.
I'm very clear in my mind. I'm very clear in my mind.
In the contract, they will say that if there's any dispute, it will be maybe in the UK courts. So you can't transfer litigation, the dispute, the place that you will deal with dispute to US.
Okay. So is it your point that you know for a fact? You know for a fact that the choice of law was for the US court and not the UK court.
Have you cited the contract?
No. Okay. But he's trying to say. The thing is, you can ask for the thing to be seated somewhere, even if that's not the choice of
All right. Fortunately,
but the case you can't shift the case to the US.
Koku gives us an indication that we can hope to see the judgment very soon, sometime next week, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a fact. Now the point about the liability. My brother went around. This is a memo signed by Chachu Chikata, dated 15 December 1998, from him to the chairman of GMPC and the board of directors. And it says, with the continuing uncertainty over the actual start-up date for production, Société Générale would not expand the credit line to address this price situation pending the start-up of production. They required the positions to be closed, and this was done in July 1998. At the time of the closure of the positions, the decline in overall value was at the level of $35.2 million. However, as GMPC had earlier received premium income of $5 million, the total amount due Société Générale came to $40 million. Now you get a point? It means that the problem between GMPC and Société Générale had arrived at $40 million by 1998. By 2001, an accrued interest of $7 million had come on top. So we're then dealing with $47 million as the point of litigation in the UK court.
Right.
It was more than mere seizure, seeking the seizure of a ship.
Right.
Please.
Why did we make representation?
I wanted to make
thank you. But it's even worse if we were to go in there.
No, thank you very much,
gentlemen.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah, we need to move on.
No, but I told you I wanted to do.
In 3 years, you are not paying $47 million.
Okay, let's hear Gabi in a minute.
I'm not too sure why he's bringing Akufo-Addo in and the rest of it, and let me explain why.
He was the Attorney General.
No, please. Can you just?
I was very clear.
Can you keep quiet and let me make my point? Those who negotiated that deal, at the end of the day, Katie Amon has come out to say that the debt was $47 million, and then it came down to $19.5 million. Now, is that what you are telling me? is reckless? We've seen situations in this country where the debt may be 7 million, it goes to court and it's 40 million, it's 54 million. And you are telling me that when there's a debt and the case is in court, and then you settle, you agree to bring it down to 19.5 million, and they amend their rate to, if like, reflect that point, and you are telling me that is reckless? Where did you learn your law?
He's talking about before the debt.
But that's what he learned my law.
He's talking about before the debt.
Where I learned my law.
The same place as me.
But Gabi, you have missed the point. You have missed the point.
What's the point?
You see, the point of recklessness has to do with the failure of Akufo-Addo, the then Attorney General, to represent us in court.
There was nothing like that.
That is the point of recklessness.
The case.
The case was from cabinet. From 40 million, 47 million to 90.5 million.
So we cannot
don't question my knowledge of the law in this matter.
Thank you.
You sat here and you said they should transfer jurisdiction to US. That's what you said here.
Thank you very much.
You just told the public that they will transfer jurisdiction to US.
Thank you very much.
Don't go there.
1 minute and then we move on. It's only fair. 1 minute, then we move on.
Don't do that.
No, but don't do what you are doing.
Gentlemen.
You are playing politics with it.
No.
Thank you, gentlemen. 1 minute, and then we move on.
Very uneducated politics we are playing with.
Oh, Gabi, I think seriously.
You are
insulting, Gabi.
It's clear
Gabi,
from the
that's
facts.
very insulting. You should retract.
And what you said about Akufo-Addo was not insulting.
You should retract.
You would not retract for saying it was reckless.
You'd have to apologize.
Apologize to you.
You say I am uneducated.
I didn't say you are not uneducated. I said the point you were making. You were making a very uneducated politics.
That is scandalous.
Please. It's scandalous. Yeah. Recklessness is not scandalous.
All right, gentlemen.
Somebody saves you over 20 million. It's not reckless.
Gentlemen.
And you go to court. And you increase, somebody says his owed money. He writes a letter to say it's about 5 million. And you end up paying him.
He's insisting that you are misunderstanding him.
I'm not misunderstanding.
He's talking about the lack of representation.
What representation?
At the time when
that was not
at the time when the nation,
it was not a
at the time when the nation had withdrawn its external solicitors.
A refusal. Government had taken the decision that we were not going to continue with this litigation. So you put it well. If you say a refusal by a person, that then could be reckless.
Mr. Host, I'm not going to sit here for someone with that fact to describe somebody as reckless. And I should just sit here.
Thank you very much, Gabi. You've made your point.
Absolutely.
Just a minute. Let's go.
Gabi, calm down.
Let's go.
You're being too disruptive.
I thought you had ended on a nice note earlier that we should be looking at the commission to come up with recommendations, and then we would see the way forward.
Yes. And I wanted to add that we need consistency in discussing these matters. I was expecting my good friend Kweku Bakum to continue to be consistent as he's been since this judgment that saga broke and became an issue of national debate. What has happened to the point that he made consistently about how government should not be in a hurry to withdraw from cases in court? What has happened to the point that has been made severally on this platform that the Attorney General Department should be giving the people of this country quality representation? They shouldn't be missing court dates when they are told. They should not be in a hurry to settle. What has happened to all those points?
His point is
those
that
points
it's not a question of lack of representation.
I'm saying that these points, let's be consistent. These points should come up strongly. Where is the $3.5 million? It doesn't seem interested in that. It is not coming up.
Me?
You are not telling us where the $3.5 million is. You know, so it is.
He says we should wait for the gentlemen who have volunteered to go before the commission. They'll bring us information.
I mean,
this is above, it's below the standard of this program.
You can call it nursery.
It's nursery indeed.
The point is that
it is.
I'm calling for consistency. I'm calling for consistency.
From where?
And you can insult me all you want.
I haven't.
Let us be consistent. You can't in the same breath, when other attorney generals engage in this kind of conduct, you are hard on them. You are unhappy that they were in a hurry to settle. You are unhappy that they did not secure the nation's interest. Then, as for this matter, you are silent.
Are you ignoring to appreciate his point and
telling us
this
that
was not lack of representation, but that the government decision was that we are not pursuing the matter.
I was expecting my good friend to support our position that we have made on this program.
Which one?
All right, gentlemen.
Please.
That it is important to unravel this mystery. That the valuation that was done, we are not convinced as at now that Ghana got value for money for the sale of that drill ship? That what is the evidence that $19.5 million was indeed paid? We have not found that evidence. The $3.5 million, we do not know where it is.
He finds Societe Generale's explanations in respect of the payment pathetic.
See, I am surprised.
I suppose those were his words.
I am actually surprised. Those are your views.
So
these are not the views of the commission.
All right.
We are all waiting for the commission to come out with these views.
Yes.
I have expressed my position on this matter. Look, for instance, when it came to the Cape trading matter, Cape trading, you brought it up. What was it? Was it not that Akufo-Addo had advised that the money should be paid?
Yeah, you mean Great
What
Cape.
was my stand?
Great Cape, yeah.
What was my stand? I said that was proper. If an attorney general thought this could not be fought, it was right for the attorney general to do so. I said so then. You went and negotiated
but he's giving you evidence to show that this was a case to be fought.
No, but I am saying he doesn't have that point.
Why?
He doesn't. Where is the position? Where is it?
When on two earlier counts the people have lost
if you
in
negotiate
the
with
US. Now you are telling us that there's a fine distinction.
There
a
is.
distinction which doesn't exist.
If you negotiate a deal with
I'm telling you that
without
distinction doesn't exist.
You had no record.
I'm telling you that distinction doesn't exist.
Okay.
That's your view.
Now, how can we be sure that there were records when people were in London claiming to be negotiating?
Okay,
if you negotiate a deal with Waterville, without records, as you yourself said, and rely on Waterville's records to come to a negotiated settlement, and I lambast it, you say that's not consistent?
You are not being consistent now. You are not being consistent now.
All right, thank you.
You need my
gentlemen.
support.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You need my support.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Do it in a refined way.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Don't come with this buga buga.
Oh, please, there is no buga buga.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
It doesn't
I take my time to analyze.
It doesn't get finer than
If you
this.
do your propaganda, you want me to join, I won't join it.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
I'm not going to follow your propaganda.
This is Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show.
I deal with matters in a serious way.
Okay.
Not in a propagandist manner.
Kweku, you must have anticipated it. The first comment that came from that gentleman was that fireworks.
Oh, but,
all right,
but
so let's continue.
If they make me the target,
all right, let's continue.
When
let's
say that
continue.
there can be two areas of consent to jurisdiction.
Great.
You can have two forums to settle disputes.
Thank you very much.
US and UK.
Exactly.
Have you seen that in any contract?
It's what. Okay. Now, gentlemen, let's move quickly.
You have the contract.
Let's move quickly. Let's move quickly to deal with the matter of an acting president, which has become a matter for debate. And I'm asking the question simply that why the renewed debate? Because it's a matter that's been settled by the Supreme Court on the 28th of January 2004 when Professor Kweku Asare brought a matter before the court challenging Peter Alajete's, swearing in to sit in for the president for 4 days while the president and the vice president, Aliyu Mahama, were out of the country on other assignments. But the most critical question again to ask is, can you imagine a situation where the speaker is an opposition, from the opposition party? Will any president risk it? Because they are invested with all the powers of the president, and they will take all the actions that they require. All right, so let me start that discussion with you, James.
Yes. Sami, it's interesting, but as you rightly put it, this is a matter which has clearly been resolved by the Supreme Court, the apex court of the land. And so the discussions, that have clearly been brought up are moot. First of all, the position, I think, is found in article, let me read the relevant article for the benefit of our viewers. I think Article 60, Clause 11, which reads as follows: where the president and the vice president are both unable to perform the functions of the president, the Speaker of Parliament shall perform those functions until the president or the vice president is able to perform those functions or a new president assumes office, as the case may be. I think that in the Professor Asari's case, and I happened to be in court when submissions were made by Professor Bonzi Simpson. It was interesting.
Bonzi Simpson was representing the plaintiff.
Professor Asari, yes.
Okay.
And on that occasion, Ambrose Derry was
for the state.
For the state. They were interesting legal submissions. I remember quite vividly how one of the justices of the Supreme Court, asked Professor Simpson whether, once the president and the vice president left the jurisdiction and the speaker assumed the role as acting president, he could reshuffle cabinet. And it
Did
caused
that
a lot
come
of...
from that about?
I should think so. One of them.
Okay.
One of them. And when they asked that question, Bruce Derry, you could see from his, demeanor, he couldn't answer the question to the satisfaction of the court. So there are real challenges there. But you see, Sami, I think that if you read carefully the wording, which is this, let me take it once again. The Speaker of Parliament shall perform those functions until the President or the Vice President is able to perform those functions or a new President assumes office, clearly places a responsibility on the Speaker of Parliament to act in a way which is in consonance with the letter and spirit of the Constitution. If you look at the oath of office that they take, the Speaker, upon assuming the role of President, he takes an oath to be faithful to the people of Ghana, right? Not to do anything which would breach the laws of the land. And so if the only reason why the Speaker of Parliament would temporarily, assume the position of President because of the lack of absence of the two, I want to believe that his oath of office itself would clearly be contradicted if the Speaker were to act in a way so as to, as it were, water down on the authority of the President, who is duly elected by the good people of this country.
Those are making the argument against the present position are looking at the tenor of the Article 6011, which says where they are unable to perform their functions, they ask the question, which is germane. The President presently is not in this country. Wherever he is he unable to perform his duties as President?
Yeah.
The Vice President, is he unable to perform his duties as President?
Yes.
Except that in the Supreme Court's interpretation, and in this situation, they said they wanted to interpret the Constitution purposively.
Yeah.
They were looking at the objective purpose and not the subjective literal purpose.
Yeah.
And they say that looking at the objective purpose of the Constitution, an inability should make up for absence.
Yeah. Yes,
that
was the Supreme Court's judgment. But I think so. You see, Professor Simpson raised, similar sentiments when he appeared before the Supreme Court. He had argued that in this era of technology, when the President and his vice are out of the jurisdiction of Ghana, they can issue instructions via,
technology,
telephone, and other means of communication.
Video conferencing.
That's right. But the court said that, listen, it's not for nothing that the President should be able to perform his functions when he's physically present in this country. Remember that the President is the Commander-in-Chief of the armed forces. And throughout the world, when troops are deployed, they have to go to war or respond to certain emergency situations. You have the President visiting them to raise their morale and so on. Now, if the President is not physically present, he is unable to do so. But communication could even break down. Technology can fail us. If the President is in another country and something were to happen, he's impeded. No. How would he be able to administer the country from outside this jurisdiction? I think these were the factors which weighed heavily on the mind of the Supreme Court when they elected to interpret, shall perform those functions. Yes.
Okay. Now hold on briefly. Let me go to Gabi on this point. And Gabi, he raises the main issue, which is used in defense of why this situation is absurd. That we're a technologically advanced country or world. And this is how Professor Kluje takes that issue on. He says, I am totally not persuaded by the argument that we have to take into account the current technological advances which make it possible for the president, even when far away from Ghana, to be able to communicate with responsible officials in Ghana. I agree that we now live in a virtual global village, and the facilities for contact, both within and without the borders of one's country of residence, are tremendous and fascinating. However, that realization does not entitle us to ignore the plain language of the constitutional provision that we are now being asked to consider. Our constitution was adopted and came into force barely a decade ago. The framers must be deemed to be cognizant of the technological advances to which we are being referred, as well as the promise of future technological achievements. The voting public also knew of them when they approved of the Constitution as it was written. We cannot therefore circumvent a clear constitutional provision because technological facilities may enable the president now or in future to communicate with us from distant countries. He ends by saying, in my view, the framers of the Constitution intend that at all times, regardless of the means of national and international communication, there should be present in Ghana an official who has duly sworn the presidential oath to perform the duties of the president if the need should arise, while the president is absent from Ghana or is incapable.
This is where I take my point from. If the need should arise. And I think it was wrong on the part of the Supreme Court to give it a blanket okay. Because, you know, the president being away doesn't necessarily mean he's unable to perform the functions of the president. But there could be certain specific situations where the president or the vice president have to be in Ghana, physically present. And I think in the case of swearing the speaker in, who is not really part of the line directly, you should wait until such a situation arises. I don't know if I'm making sense here. Because, for instance, the Kluje went on to make the point about Deportation Act in 1957, the Preventive Detention Act. Those were actually given the royal assent by the Chief Justice because the governor was not around. It's fine. But, you know, was the Chief Justice doing all the work that the governor was she or was he? It was a Kukosa, wasn't it? Doing all the work of the governor in his absence. You get my point. So I think really the interpretation given was too open, because if you go into Article 8 specifically, it says whenever the president is absent from Ghana or is for any other reason unable to perform the functions of his office, the vice president shall perform the functions. And it doesn't have to be sworn in.
Right.
Okay? Now, I think if they really wanted it to be that in any time that the president and the vice president are also out of town, it means they are unable to perform their functions, and therefore the speaker should perform. They would have brought that in as well. They would have been specific as they were with the vice president and the...
Do you find that is an improvement on the previous constitution where the vice president needed to subscribe to the oath before he could act?
I agree with you. It's an improvement. But I'm saying that if they also wanted it to be blanket, that whenever the president and vice president are not in, the speaker acts as president, I think they would have been specific there. But then they go to tell you where the vice president comes in. Where the speaker comes in, the speaker shall, before commencing the performance of the functions of the president, under Clause 11. And Clause 11 talks about being unable. And it's not every circumstances that a president has to be in Ghana to be unable. You know, so I think really the Supreme Court's interpretation, okay, actually made it very difficult and cumbersome whenever the president and vice president are both away to make the speaker the acting president. I think they have made it rather cumbersome because the president is away, he's performing the duties of a president. You know, but of course, the vice president can always perform the duties of the president in the absence of the president in Ghana. But it's not in every situation that the speaker, because a minister can even perform the duties of a president when the president is not in town. It happens even when the president is in town. He can tell a minister to go and deliver a speech for him. So it's not...
to bring a check from London.
Oh, absolutely. Or to negotiate the judgment that upwards rather than downwards, because that's what NDC have been doing.
Oh,
you know, please be careful there. You know, so I think really the Supreme Court did us a great disservice by giving a blanket interpretation that whenever the president and vice president are not in town, the speaker must act. And it's really, because built in there, and you are talking about them giving a purposive approach, built in there is
I'm not talking, they are saying.
No, okay, they are saying.
Yes.
But I'm saying that built in there is a mischief. Because if you are giving a purposive approach, then you should also anticipate what could happen. If, for instance, you have another, like you had an MPP president and the speaker and blah, blah, what really in law, under the Constitution, per the Supreme Court's interpretation, would stop a speaker from taking an action that the president would not be happy with?
Great. Now, Sammy, again, now the judges, the case that was being made was about technological advancement. And the judges made comments about the efficacy of this technological advancement that you are talking about. And there's a point where I read, it says, indeed, technology is an unreliable ally in modern constitutionalism. Check this example. The same technology that provides for long-distance communication may also be utilized to frustrate contracts in an emergency. During the first Gulf War of 1991, the whole communication system of the Iraqi army was neutralized by the type of technology that established it in the first place. As a result, the field commanders were unable to send or receive instructions. Furthermore, most of the electric power lines throughout Iraq were knocked out of commission by magnetic flares and other devices, thereby causing power failures and a total breakdown of communication and other electric and electronic systems. I cannot fathom they would not like us. It says, I cannot fathom the wisdom of the framers of the Constitution. I think, however, that they would not like us to be abandoned to the vicissitudes and vagaries of technological advances in an emergency. If Ghana were under attack by a foreign power, communication with the president in a distant country may not provide a prompt, adequate, or effective response. Advice to the absent president may be impracticable and unreliable. And then he ends by saying, we may need a real person who has constitutionally assumed the reins of office, albeit temporarily, to lead the nation as commander-in-chief of our armed forces until the return of the president. This may be an extreme example, but it can be replicated in the cases of local crisis, like the recent Dagbon crisis. You think this is the best example to continue in what we have?
Well, I'm not too sure, because in communication, there is inter and intra. This scenario could as well occur
absolutely
within the jurisdiction, where Because the president and his ministers and CDS and army commanders don't work in the same office.
Right.
Even if there's an emergency, you may need to reach them. How do presidents get in touch with ministers? They use communication. You know, they tell their secretary, call me the CDS, or call me this commander or this minister. So just as communication can break outside the jurisdiction, so can communication also be hampered within the jurisdiction. So I thought that scenario was a bit problematic. But I think that to the extent that this has been tested in the Supreme Court, I think this is merely an academic exercise, or that if in the future somebody would want to go for some kind of a review under different circumstances, that is fine. But I've read the judgment, and I get the impression that the judges place a lot of weight on our history as a country and the 1979 and the 1969 Constitution.
That's correct.
And if you look at the Article 38(2) of the 1969 Constitution, I think that
in both constitutions, the emphasis was the absence.
The 1969 Constitution was clearer than the 79 and 92 Constitution. The 1969 Constitution, Article 38(2), says that the president shall not leave Ghana without the consent of the cabinet. Then 3 says, whenever the president dies, resigns, is removed from office, or is absent from Ghana, or is by reason of illness unable to perform the functions of his office, the Speaker of the National Assembly shall perform those functions until the assumption of the office of the president, or the president is able to perform those functions, unquote. Remember that in 1969 there was no vice president. So
I was a ceremonial president.
So with 69, the absent from Ghana was stated clearly. But in the 79 Constitution, if you look at Article 47(10), it says, where the president and vice president are both unable to perform the functions of the president, the Speaker of Parliament shall perform those functions until the president or vice president is able to perform those functions, or a new president assumes office, as the case may be. So in 79, it just says unable to perform. And so is the 1992 Constitution, unable to perform. But in the 69 Constitution, it was stated clearly that when the president is out of the country. And I think that our history as a country also played a part, where 2 presidents were out of the jurisdiction and there was a coup d'etat. And so the
69 was ceremonial.
It's
an important distinction.
It's an important distinction, you know. So I think that the judges tried to be conscious of this fact and said that the framers of the 1992 Constitution were seized with all of these historical antecedents, and so were informed to make that arrangement. The mentality, I think, that still is that if you don't have somebody holding the fort and cloaked with all the full authority and having been sworn in and all of that, it doesn't deter, if you like, adventurers or troublemakers enough. You know, but honestly, I am with those who are of the view that the fact that the president is outside the jurisdiction doesn't mean that he's not able to perform his functions. He is even out there. In this case, the president was in Mali, representing the government and people of Ghana. He was invited because he's president, you know, for the swearing in of the new Malian president. If he wasn't president, he wouldn't have been invited, you know, to represent government and the people of Ghana. And will you also say that in this circumstance there were 2 presidents or even 3 presidents if the vice president is also performing some official functions?
They asked those questions in the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So honestly, I think that we have an opportunity to evolve. We have matured as a democracy, and as we look at implementing the Constitution review proposals, we may want to look at these aspects of the Constitution and take a second look at Article 60.
All right. I'll take a quick break. When I return, Abdul Malik Kwekubako will give us his thoughts on this matter, but I would wish that he would look at it from how the Supreme Court appeared to have suggested very clearly that the country, either the executive or parliament, should be looking at reforming this particular process. And okay, so I'll let you know about that when we come. Dr. Ba was very clear about that.
That's what I was going to
yes. Okay, now let's talk about the Akropong festival. High Life Festival and Adum FM presents Ojura Special with club beer at Nana Mantia. Chidom Hine of Ekropong, Ekwapim's residence, Akofu Road. Come enjoy the rich cultural display and quality high life performances as we celebrate Ojura Festival from A.B. Crenso, Felix of Owusu, and Kwabena. The rate is a cool 10 Ghana cedis. The time is Saturday, the 28th of September at 4 p.m. See you there. And I mean see you there. Star Assurance. While some hazards arise next to no time, our protection comes even faster. At Star Assurance, their passion is to offer you cutting-edge insurance policies that give you peace of mind and the power to achieve your set goals. Star Assurance work to protect your properties and businesses when the expected and unexpected happen. You are assured of prompt claims payment and superior customer service. Their policies include burglary, bonds, fire and allied perils, marine, motor, travel insurance, contractors, all risk policy, and many more. With branches located all over Ghana, they are focused on building partnership that lasts a lifetime. Talk to Star Assurance now on 0302 240 632 or visit their website www.starassurance.com. Celebrating 28 years of solid partnership. Star Assurance, your solid partner. I'll take a break here, or let me take one or two messages, and then we'll take a break. Kwame Owusu says, were those vessels bringing any profit or losses to GMPC? Samuel Kujato gave you an answer to that. How much was being spent on workers, on maintenance, on the vessels? Were those vessels performing duties, exploration and territorial waters for which they were bought? Had it been impounded at the time of the sale? Knowing our filing system, as far as the office operations is concerned, unless documents are removed or trashed, they cannot get lost with all filing numbers. Edward Castro Senaya sent this one in from Dodowa. He says, we were made to understand that the Sole Judgment Debt Commission is an independent institution set to do an independent work. Now, my question is, did the commission say anything, anytime, that they are so handicapped that they need the assistance of government for them to continue with their work into the sale of the drill ship? Since when did the NDC government start showing great concern in retrieving monies belonging to the state? I don't think they want us to remind them of all monies that are we still need to retrieve. Okay, interesting messages. Upon Yeboah, in this country, we pay people to talk instead of thinking. What step has the government taken concerning the retrieval of the millions of dollars? Okay, Waterville, I've told you about that one. They've already filed the appropriate processes in court, and they have been served as well. So we should keep hope alive that we'll get that money. At this point, I'll take a break. We'll be right back. Yo, welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. MTN wishes to inform its valued customers that the MTN Service Center at Osu and the postpaid section at the Graphic Road office will be closed to customers on Saturday, today, the 21st of September 2013. There will also be limited access to their contact center number 111. There will be limited service to it. Their valued customers can visit any other MTN service center between the hours of 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. today. for any assistance or services. The office reopens for business on Tuesday, the 24th of September, and they apologize sincerely for any inconvenience caused during this period. Thank you very much. And as you always know, I am clothed by Latida. And Latida is inviting you to their latest African prints, both men and ladies' dresses. So just call Latida and you will get the best and the very cheapest in the market. The numbers to call are 020-433-6444. The numbers again, 020-433-6444. That's 444. Or 026-5650-918. 026-5650-918. Thank you very much, Latida. Be in vogue. Now, I've got a few of your messages here. Randy Abe says that the Constitution says there shall be a president. Did we have 2 presidents last Thursday? The Supreme Court's interpretation suggests that a president's functions are restricted to this jurisdiction. I beg to differ. With the greatest respect, in hope I will not be held in contempt. You will not be held in contempt at all. And this one too from the Deputy Minister at the Attorney General's Department. He says that the current position is absurd. The question is, while the president is out there, is he not performing his functions as president? So in effect, whenever the speaker is president, we have 2 presidents. Very, very interesting comments coming from all these gentlemen. Now, I'll take the very last one and I'll tell you what the court said about it, and Kukubaku, you'll hear from him. This one says that the quote I just read assume that technology cannot fail if the president is in the jurisdiction. Okay, Sami Akuje to address that. And this is coming from Kweku Sechiado. And he is saying that the question is, does a president cease to be president when he is overseas conducting affairs of the state? Of course not. In what capacity was he in Mali? Right, thank you very much. It appears that there is a groundswell of, support for the proposition against the current, situation. And Mr. Bako, the question I was asking is, the court said, after he had asked all the questions that have come, it says that in the meantime, Parliament, so motu, that is on its own motion, or at the instigation of the executive, would do well to address these questions and enact appropriate gap-filling legislation. It appears Parliament have not paid attention to this judgment since then.
Yes, and I believe the court also, and I have to choose my words carefully, I think showed a certain level of timidity.
Am I hearing that word again?
In tackling the issue head on. I think a certain conservatism. Is it purposeful?
Okay, so you would like to take the word conservatism rather than timidity?
No, but the timidity is not an insult.
Okay.
It's not an insult. It's not scandalization.
I see. Okay, go on.
It's a fair comment.
Yeah, it is not like saying the judgment is corrupt.
All right.
Yeah, so we can allow
I didn't hear that.
You shouldn't corrupt things, I say.
What you read before it is said,
gentlemen,
the open questions posed above relating to whether the president continues to share the executive power while the speaker is acting for him, and if so, to the extent of the sharing of the power, do not need to be answered in this case. That's what I find striking. And that's what I meant by a certain...
So which case? But that's when they asked for legislation.
Yes, and then they proceeded to ask for legislation.
The Chief Justice, Justice Akwa, Justice Sambado, and Justice Chum did not write. They agreed with the position of Justice Databa.
Yes, and let me go again on Justice Databa, who's fine-grained. was one of the best. Anytime I read his things,
unfortunately,
fantastic.
his time is over.
Yeah, fine. Terrible, fantastic brain, as far as I'm concerned.
But he still rules about nuclear meltdown.
He made this point. My conclusion is that the purposive interpretation to be given to Article 6011 is that where both the president and the vice president are absent from Ghana, they are to be regarded as, quote, unable to perform the functions of the president, and thus the speaker is obliged to perform those functions. On the facts of this case, it is unnecessary to decide whether the speaker, when acting for the president, is vested with all the president's functions or only those which cannot be effectively performed while the president is absent from Ghana.
And he said since it's for a few days.
Yes. Again, I have a problem with that. And that's what I meant by, I don't think they decided to tackle the
Benjamin Kumbo thinks the few days can be very important.
Yeah. But I realized that the Constitutional Review Commission also attempted some answers. And if you go to page 123 of their report, the full one, they make a very interesting point. I will read some. It says, the commission finds, and they were looking at other jurisdictions, the commission finds that in some countries, such as in Mozambique, the simultaneous absence from the country of the head of state and his constitutional substitute is prohibited. This is Article 151 of the 1990 Constitution of Mozambique. Maybe we can look at that
Kenya
possibility.
Kenya
and then they come back to the recommendations for constitutional change.
So Ruto can't stay for too long.
Okay.
These are some of the things they said. They said the commission recommends that as far as is practicable, the president and the vice president should not both be outside of the jurisdiction at the same time. In situations where they are both unavoidably outside the jurisdiction, the Speaker of Parliament should be deemed to have been sworn into office. I think we should avoid that situation. They go on to say the commission recommends that a situation where the Speaker of Parliament and in turn the Chief Justice has to act as president be avoided as much as it is humanly possible to do so. The commission recommends, this is important, that a portion of Article 68, which requires the vice president or the speaker to act as president, should be amended to remove the words absent from Ghana, quote unquote. This would mean that a president or vice president may be outside the country and act as such. So I think that there's a certain way forward. If you look at the...
So you look at a
take away the
situation
duplicity
where he's unable.
Yes.
Whether he's here or not.
Yes.
Then the speaker comes in.
That's
where
right.
both are unable.
That's right.
Then the speaker comes in.
So to be honest with you, I think that we should be asking for a review or at the Supreme Court or the legislative branch of government.
Well, at the National Theatre
the review commission, the review commission has provided.
Is right.
Has provided
the review
answer.
commission has the answer. Review lapsed, but in the sense that the Supreme Court could, on its own, be dependent on a certain case. You understand? Dependent on whatever case is before them. I believe you are the lawyers. Do some review, but I believe I'll go more with the Constitutional Review Commission's position on this matter. Perhaps adopting the Mozambican example may help.
So that they are prohibited.
No, I think that's also too difficult.
Too strict.
It's too strict.
But why is it impossible? Why is it? Why should president and vice president be out at the same time? Can we plan?
Where you have a situation, let's say the president is receiving medical treatment in South Africa, for instance, for about a month, and then the vice president has to go to AU conference or somewhere to go and sign. He's not able to go.
You know what? There are times even ministers, especially of foreign affairs and defense, represent presidents.
No, but
especially foreign
but
affairs.
I'm saying.
Okay.
Once it's Ghana, it's Ghana.
Okay, gentlemen, let's move on and see. We have some
very
short time
why
to
should
attempt
somebody be?
Why should somebody get the two out of the country?
Yeah, no, even if they
But
are,
don't make
even
it
if they are out. They are out there in the name of the country.
Exactly.
Do we need another president here whilst they are working in our name?
And the Constitutional Review Commission is saying, if it comes to that, don't do the swearing in.
No.
And this Constitution provides for a certain hierarchy of a certain order of preference for the individuals. The president is first, the vice president is second, then the speaker, and then the chief justice. So it appears the
But if the two are not in town, there's something specific that the president has to sign. We can swear in the speaker to do that job. just for the purpose of
all right.
signing.
Okay.
You may not have the luxury of time.
All right.
Except that
you see,
okay.
you may not have the luxury of time.
I'm saying
if
it's that important.
Specific cases.
Okay.
yeah, but something you've left out once on a lighter note. It emerged on social media this week that there should be a fifth slot. When the president, no, they said the opposition leader, so that now it was all over. It was all over.
All right. They took a cue from Benjamin Kombo.
This is mischief.
He had information about certain people going to take certain strategic positions. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's attempt to see how we can deal with this issue. And Gabi thinks that if you threaten instability, you cannot at the same time be calling for stability within your party. It appears this is what is happening within the NPP, and it is so unhealthy. Is the NPP heading towards self-destruction, self-inflicted? Gabi?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there's been some bloodletting. And I think bloodletting is acceptable in politics.
Really?
It's acceptable. I mean, you should know. We've seen it in the NDC. I mean, to the extent that even one of your executive members had to leave to go and form their own party. So what do you mean, really? We've seen it. You know, so I think bloodletting should be expected in politics. And particularly where you have a vacancy or you have vacancies coming up. You know, and what is happening in MPP is not, I mean, look, this weekend, I think the Labour Party in the UK are having their conference. McBride, who was the spin doctor for Brown, has written a book and really is bringing out a lot of the stuff that happened within that party. Not so long ago, I think in the Prime Minister of St. Kitts said, because there was people challenging him, and these were his words. Me not bother with them because I know part of it is envy, jealousy, and grudge. Envy, jealousy, and grudge. So me not bother with them. These were people who were trying to fight him. You know, so it happens. Even in the Communist Party in China, infighting. It's somehow normal.
You have a minute. You are doing 3 minutes.
Yeah. So once you have positions opening up, there are people, and what is quite interesting, some of these people, you don't actually hear them when you are contesting against the common opposition for power. You know, they find their voices when they have something negative to say about their own party, or there's some internal contest. It's quite an interesting thing. But as far as I'm concerned, if you look at the two main political parties, I think MPP has even been better at dealing with this sort of internal feuds than NDC. Because with NDC, they're always going from a party. We saw it with Reform. This was what, in 2000? We saw it with Obed Asamoah's party. What was it called?
Democratic Freedom Party, is it?
Yeah, DFP. And we saw it just two years ago, with 2-3 years ago, with Mrs. Rawlings and her party. You know, so MPP, I think, even managed to deal with these things better. At the end of the day, I'm hoping that they can get all these contests out of the way.
You've had Reku Brobe in the NPP.
But yes, but Reku Brobe. You know, and it's to me, those things are acceptable.
And now it appears also there's also the threat of replay of what has been tagged as the ugly situation where you had as many as 18 or 17.
I don't know where Ben Nefson gets his figures from. He can't sit in his armchair and decide for the party. The 15 names that he came up with, all of them are coming out to say that they're not interested. A lot of them. How many people have come out? Actually, I forgot. For the past week, I've had 10 phone calls. There's a lot of pressure on me.
I see.
There's a lot of pressure on
Thank
me.
you.
To contest.
Stage your uncle.
All right. Okay.
I'm not too sure what position, but I'm getting calls.
Yes. Sammy, let's hear you on this one.
Very interesting. It's quite obvious something that the center cannot hold in the New Patriotic Party. I I would normally want to stay away, but you remember what they did to the late President Mills, God bless his soul, when he espoused Diufiasem. You know, they said that they didn't like that, and that it's not good for people to do their fiasem. So I would visit the matter. You see, something. I think that first of all, there are two people that have made a very, very, very important point, which the NPP is failing to listen. Dan Boche and Arthur Kennedy. They have said that the first thing that the NPP should have done was to take stock of why they have declined from a six-region party to a two-region party.
You want to say 2.5?
Actually, some say 1.5 because Eastern region is even under threat by the great NDC. And you notice that this week, after Kennedy had to bust out, he said
they still got more votes than all your MPs.
He said the MPP,
the party in decline.
He said the MPP is not a serious party. He says we don't know the mistakes of the last elections. We don't know the mistakes of the party. We don't know who made those mistakes. We don't know whether our message was right. And we are going straight for flag bearers. We are not serious. He stressed. And he goes,
I thought we knew the mistakes. We knew that the mistakes were as a result of electoral, problems, the EC and its officers.
No, I think he's talking about the two elections he ran and lost.
Okay.
So
you see,
those are the mistakes.
And Damboche has also made similar points, that he will have thought that there will have been some, introspection, so that they can.
And that's not been done.
And they tell us that it has not been done, and they're very disappointed.
You've got a minute.
But you see, what is also interesting is the denial in the party. Jake has said that, quote, the silent mood of Ghanaians after the Supreme Court verdict on the 2012 presidential election petition was an indication the majority of the voting population was not satisfied with the ruling. He's still in denial. I don't know if this denial is because he himself used this,
Baumia says they won the moral victory.
The previous executives had lost the election, they could not organize the party, and that is how they came in. So I don't know if this denial is because they are haunted by their own shadows, or it's just
he's exhausted his time.
I'm watching the time.
It's just an attempt to play double standards. And you see, there is also the emergence of proxy candidates. Okay. If you listen to all these candidates coming up, we hear of the Alan candidates, the Nanado candidates.
He came very prepared for MPP.
And one asks, are these people going to be independent leaders to run this party, or they are just going to be doing the bidding of others? And I think that if I was a member of the MPP, I would be deeply worried about these developments.
Kaku?
Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with competition on the party level. That is for party positions, office. I don't have a problem with that. You have different people coming on board. And I think the party has launched a program, a calendar, for that purpose. So there's nothing wrong there. But it's with the presidential thing, and we've articulated our views here over and over
Which
again.
you think it is
that
premature?
I think is premature. So I was surprised when I heard Dr. Anani, a fine gentleman, come on board and say that people are asking him to join and things.
Yeah,
and at the same time, he was not too happy with Sir John. I thought virtually he was doing what Sir John had been doing. So to be honest, the focus, if it's on their party primaries, the offices, party positions, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And all the parties will soon have their fair share of that. I suppose the CPP, the NDC, and PNC, when they are going for internal competition, will have these things happening. Yeah, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Sabi,
yes.
I think Okujetu has diagnosed MPP's problem. The denial. The denial is disgusting. See, I've listened to some leading members of the party, and they still think that Nana should have been president as far back as 2008.
Yeah.
What it means is that they have not accepted, some of them,
Kofi Juma says
that they lost the elections in 2012.
But that the subject in 2004?
You see,
is it the subject matter?
For me, a critical starting point for them is to accept the fact that they lost the elections in 2012, do a post-mortem, of the causes of their defeat in 2012, then they can build a formidable party for election 2016. The second aspect of their problem is the undemocratic and unconstitutional manner per their constitution. Some of their leading members are going about, endorsing Akufo-Addo that he's their candidate for election 2016, even before Congress. It's unfortunate. These are the factors they should look at. In any case, he said, Prof talked about the Wufi Assembly. We are happy that these things are happening. If they emerge out of all these problems with a candidate, we'll be ready and happy to beat the candidate come 2016.
Yeah.
All right, interesting views there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kwekubako Jr. He is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. James Agalga, he's the Deputy Minister of the Interior. Gabi Asari Ochri Dako is the Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute.
But let me say, there's no crisis in the MPP. The MPP is strong.
Okay. And Sami
Denier.
Sami Okujeto Ablakwa is Deputy Minister Education in charge of Treasury. Samson Ladi. This show was produced under the leadership of Sadem Fori. Emmanuel Ante supporting. Yaya has been behind directing what you see on TV. And this show will be repeated on the Joy News channel at 9:30 p.m. Have a good afternoon. The news is up next.